Good evening, everybody. I am Vicki Sedlak, the Executive Director of the Alameda Education Foundation.
And good evening, I'm Bill Sonneman. I'm the President Emeritus of the Board of Alameda Education Foundation. And we welcome you to Salute to Education 2022.
We've been doing this for 38 years now in one form or another. So here we go. Anyway, before we get started, please
we'll find a new form eventually. Yeah.
Please note that there is, or will be very shortly, a schedule of the presentations in the chat box, but we hope you will stay and watch all of them anyway.
Well, Vic, here we are again. Last year, we did a remote version of Salute to Education because of COVID, but you know what? We actually found that it worked very well. And we're able to see and hear about the impressive work happening in our schools. And although we miss seeing people in person, we like how we can focus attention on inspiring work being done.
Tonight, you will see a presentation from each of our AUSD and public charter schools, showcasing a variety of imaginative, student-supporting efforts. You are sure to be impressed by the hard work, innovation, and creativity. Some of the presentations will make you smile. Some may make you cry, but I think all of them will give you great hope for our future. One thing I want to note, all of our schools have many programs that are impressive, but in order to feature all 18 Alameda public schools, we did have to limit each school to one presentation tonight.
You know, Vicki, even though schools did open in person this year, it was another very challenging year between COVID variants, increased safety protocols, a year of being away from in-person learning, and a huge increase in mental health concerns. Many in our education community say this year was even more challenging than last year.
That's right. But again, our schools stepped up to the plate. And tonight, we at AF are thrilled to be able to let them shine their light. But first, we would like to thank the sponsors of this year's Salute to Education event, whose support makes this evening possible. And they are the Scott family, Margie and Don Sherritt, the Goldberg, oh, darn it, I missed it, Tesherin family, Blue Rise Ventures, State Farm Insurance, Team Kelly Lux, and Bill and Lois Sonneman.
And Tim and Tracy Garvin, Christopher Moody, and Ryan Lalonde, KDC Accounting and Consulting, LLP, Jinun Cunningham, Nancy Joy Gordon, and the interim Alameda County Supervisor, Dave Brown.
The Glassman and Sons, in memory of Tricia Collins Levy. East Side West, Steve and Lynn McAdam, Boost Healthcare, Focus Financial Corporation, Tim and Jenny Marr.
Team Schuler of Compass, Ginger and Jim Schuler, HOAleader.com, Daniel Jew, Edward Jones, Tamara Centino, Steve Cressy in honor of Heidi Bonahati, Bill Pye, Jose Alvarez, Alameda Orthodontics, the infamous anonymous person, Marcy Suslaw and Stephen Johnson, and our raffle donor, our generous raffle donor, David Graber. During this evening, you will not only see a presentation by every school, but you'll also hear about some of the work AEF does to support our schools. If you would like to support our work this evening, take out your phones and open your camera when you see the QR code on the screen. Just put your phone up to the screen and it'll give you a link to our donation page like this. Here's our QR code slide. Or you can visit our website at alamedaeducation.org. We accept all donations, small to very large, and anything in between. So we appreciate all your help. Before we get to our first school presentation, let's hear from AUSD Superintendent Pasquale Scuderi. The superintendent could not join us tonight, but he recorded a welcome message.
The Alameda Education Foundation has supported educational programs in Alameda Public Schools since 1982. by providing literally millions of dollars in funds, materials, and volunteer resources to supplement opportunities available in our schools. This year, our schools will be presenting information on exciting programs they've been able to offer their communities. I've seen some of these programs in action, and in a word, they're impressive. The fact that school leaders, teachers, and staff have had the energy and focus to put together extra programming and events during a time where the last 3 school years have been impacted by a pandemic is extraordinary. I am incredibly proud of our Alameda Unified team. The programs you'll hear about tonight include student-led projects and initiatives in areas ranging from the arts to wellness to community building and contextualized academics. It also would not or could not be a genuine celebration of education without an example of how teachers so typically go above and beyond for their students.
Now let's get started with our presentations. You know, Amelia Earhart was known for soaring above the earth, but the students of Amelia Earhart Elementary have done something quite special right here on earth. Earhart's presentation is sponsored by Steve McAdam and State Farm Insurance Team Kelly Lux.
The Ocean Guardian program is administered by NOAA, and it has many strands. Earhart decided to do waste reduction, teaching the students the 6 R's, reduce, rot, reuse, recycle, rethink. And we rolled that program out and taught them all about the 6 R's, and we also included a beach cleanup for the area around us.
The activism is a big part of Ocean Guardianship, which I like because it gives students the kind of agency to, do something about whatever the anxiety around, our ocean, the health of our oceans, our air, and our earth, are kind of in need right now. And so what can kids do? And so, the ocean cleanups, the gardening and everything. There's so many different there's so many different aspects to what we're doing, and there's so much that I feel like I wouldn't be able to recount all of it. But along with all of that, it helps them to feel like, oh yeah, we could do this, and also think about what they would like to do in the future.
I think the kids walk away with a sense of pride for doing something. And also, they do have a really sort of a grasp of the importance of the small things that you can do, like not bringing a plastic water bottle, to have a waste-free lunch.
Yes, those things are automatic for them,
Yeah.
I think. So they, when they throw away the trash, we're really conscious of which bin it goes into.
So the final project for this strand of the Ocean Guardian program that we're in, waste reduction strand, culminated in a sign down at the estuary by the viewing platform across to Elsie Romer Bird Sanctuary. Our 4th and 5th graders last year wrote about their favorite R. They wrote a little bit about the watershed, and they came up with this amazing graphic that shows how waste can get washed into the storm drains. It's pretty exciting. So
I think it has been such a positive, such an amazing program that Earhart's been a part of for many years.
there you go.
Thank you for your presentation and for the work you do, Earhart. Next up is Bay Farm K-8 School, who's going to show us some ways to be mindful. Bay Farm's presentation is sponsored by Eastside West, Team Schuler of Compass, and Ginger and Jim Schuler.
I bring a program to the students that is called Mindful Movements, and I work with students to help them develop self-awareness and self-regulation, to learn through movement, also through slowing down and through some quiet, slower moments, how to be in touch with how they're feeling and how they act. So we usually begin by coming in, checking in with how everybody's doing. We have a mindful moment, which is when we're listening to kind of a guided relaxation or a very short little story of helping them learn, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Deep breathing will help me connect with myself. So then we practice some different movements. Maybe if they're feeling really upset one day, they learn that, oh, this really helps me instead of hitting a table or kicking a ball out of somebody's hand. They learn different ways to practice movements. There's all sorts of little different things that we can do. Then we'll even go into yoga so that they're practicing, oh, I can try something challenging and it's okay because it's my body and it's how I move, so I'm in control of me. Hopefully what they're getting and what I see when they come back over and over to work with me is that they're remembering, oh, we did this last week. By practicing in the school, that's one of the most important goals I have, is that they're learning to take what they learn here and use that self-control, that self-awareness in the classroom. Then they'll bring it home, hopefully, or outside of the classroom. But we're working on starting here for those kids who really need that.
Well, thank you, Dolphins. I actually feel a lot more relaxed now watching that last video. And it's an excellent program. Thank you. Now let's learn about Edison School's art program and the positive impact it has on their students. Edison's presentation is sponsored by the Goldberg and Kentesherin family. Pretty good that time. Go on, Edison.
So Edison had the art docent program that most of the elementary schools in California have or had. It's about 30 years old. It was mostly a Eurocentric white perspective, a lot of great master artists, but not really accessible to the kids, you know. So I came in to teach that and to update it, make it more multicultural, more contemporary, to reflect our community. So I started doing that. Then the pandemic hit. During COVID, I was working remotely. I was making art videos for the district, and they had to be accessible to everybody. They had to work with the minimum amount of supplies. So I turned instead to contemporary artists and contemporary art practices, because it's a much wider definition. Art can be so many things. It is so many things. So we did a lot of stuff with recycled materials, with string, with just things that are around. And when I came back to school the next year, I couldn't go back to drawing and painting and the old curriculum.
Marguerite has brought art to life and shown how art is connected to not only academic subjects like reading and math, but also to things like science, because you have to problem solve in order to really do a wonderful art project. And that problem solving is what is so exciting when I see the kids doing their art.
I think the biggest thing they've gotten out of it is the belief that they can all be artists. They all are artists. They're creative problem solvers, they're critical thinkers, and they are coming in excited to do art.
Thank you, Edison. As Edison's presentation showed us, art is very important for our children. I'd like to take just a minute to share with you a new AEF program called Art Change, and a student project based on each artist's work. For students of color with representation. Now let's give a warm welcome to Franklin Elementary School. Franklin's presentation is sponsored by Jenan Cunningham and Alameda Orthodontics.
So the kids call me Miss Erin. My name is Erin Gilchrist Brown, and what I do is help, as the office manager, create community. One way we were able to do that this year, it was by creating something called the Welcoming Committee. This came from an idea from second graders. Two second graders specifically, Maddie Cox and Amani Chen, came up with the idea that they wanted to find a way to reach out and help other kids and families feel appreciated and welcome. And they figured that the third graders are able to be kindergarten buddies, the fourth and fifth graders are conflict managers, but there was no real place for second graders to have their mark on the community, and this was a perfect way for them to do it. And when I say perfect, I really mean it. What they decided to do was come up with cards that they made for every incoming kindergartner. And they brainstormed ideas of how to welcome the kindergartners by talking about ways that they loved kindergarten. So they designed the cards, and then inside they do different messages. Like this one says, I think you'll have a great time at Franklin. And then they decorate the cards, and then the idea is that we'll send them to every incoming kindergartner, so when they start Franklin, they'll already have a connection of feeling like they're welcomed, and they get to be here knowing that they already have a friend. And the welcoming committee takes their job very seriously. They got up in front of the entire school, over 300 people, to do their initial speech, telling everyone what the welcoming committee was going to do, and they practiced their speech, they wrote their speech themselves. It, to me, is so exciting to see second graders who are able to think outside of their own little circle and think of ways to make their world bigger and better by including people and by welcoming people. The welcoming committee is one of my favorite things I get to be a part of here at Franklin, because I feel so lucky that I get to watch children take initiative and be kind and be welcoming and be friendly. It's one of the best parts of my job, and I'm proud that I get to be a part of it.
Well, thank you, Franklin. A very welcoming school, I can tell. Next up, let's learn about Love Elementary's Science and Engineering season. This presentation is sponsored by Christopher Moody and Ryan Lalonde, Tim and Jenny Marr, and an anonymous donor.
We are in the third year of our Science and Engineering Fair at Love Elementary. And we are now calling this our science season is expanded. And so when students come back to school after winter break, they are in a physical science unit where they're doing a lot of building and engineering in the science class. And then we partner with our PTA Dads Club to put on a family science night, which was in person and now on Zoom this year. And then that is what we call the kickoff for our Science and Engineering Fair. The science work starts with observations and helps students get into their 5 senses. So they're making these sensory observations. That way, if we can help students learn to be a scientist from their 5 senses, they will feel empowered to learn from the world and not be limited by a perceived lack of materials. We like to give students a chance to explore and apply their creativity to the academic world as they are observing their surroundings and questioning and finding ways to test. Having a science mind is part of what makes us human, this part of our mind that wants us to question and explore and compare, and the engineering part that puts our creativity connects it to what we're noticing about the natural world or the invented world.
Thank you so much, Love. Now, let's see what's in Maya-Lin Elementary School's toolbox. This presentation is sponsored by Nancy Joy Gordon and KDC Accounting and Consulting, LLP.
So we started the Toolbox Ambassador program to really help our younger students on the yard at recess time. So our 3rd graders and 5th graders come to the yard at the first recess when the young kids come out, and they help facilitate games. They help if there's any problems on the yard. They really can help kids work through the language they need to use when they're problem solving with friends outside on the yard. Coming back after the pandemic, we had, some behaviors, and we had some kids that didn't have a lot of time to socialize with other friends during the pandemic. So it's been really helpful in kind of easing those transitions back into the full school day. And it's really special to see the kids out there. The 3rd graders are very responsible. They come down in the mornings and they get everything set up. We have 2 carts that we roll out that have our materials. We roll out rugs so that kids can play on the rugs, so that we have a little more space on the yard, so that, gives some options for recess time. And I think it's really extra special to see the connections that the kids have made, the older kids with the younger kids. I never say to them that there are certain kids that they need to go out and help and monitor, but I will again and again turn around and see that an ambassador has noticed one of our kiddos that doesn't have a pal to be with, and they will, go and find a game for that kiddo or help them in a problem-solving moment. So I think it's just a really special thing.
Well, thank you, Maya Lynn. I'm very curious as to what Otis Elementary School will present. This presentation is sponsored by Blue Rise Ventures and Marcy Suslaw and Stephen Johnson.
The STEAM lab at Otis is a classroom that benefits all of the kids. It's K through 5, meaning I see every single student at the entire school, so it's 650 plus kids. All the kindergartners through 5th grade, they come in about once a week, and every week I have a different program set up for them involving science, technology, engineering, art, or math. But this is just a place where the kids can come in and they are learning, but they're playing. And sometimes they get to work with a group of their friends, or sometimes they're doing a solo project. And we've never repeated a project. Every week is something new. And usually every week it just kind of feels like it gets better and better, and the kids get so excited and they line up at the door and they're waiting. They go, Miss Stacy, what's the project today? When the kids come in here, what they are getting out of it is hopefully a love of science and hopefully a love of engineering. And I think something that I really enjoy watching is especially some of the girls who, a lot of the toys that are out there are engineered or focused towards boys, and the girls get to figure out that they can engineer too, and they can actually make machines, and they can make robots, and they can make things move, just starting from a few little pieces of something. So a love of engineering and a love of science is something that the kids get out of, and it's just curiosity. It's playing, figuring things out from a different standpoint and doing it hands-on rather than reading about it or watching a video about it. They actually get to experiment and do it themselves, and they get to take that knowledge home. And I see a lot of times the kids will try something else at home after they've learned it here, and they'll tell me, oh, I tried this at home and this is how it worked out. And so I know that they're taking that curiosity with them, and hopefully it'll last a lifetime.
All right, thank you so much to the Otis Owls. And did you know that Miss Stacy, who is just featured, is also one of AEF's enrichment program instructors, along with Miss Bernadette, who is featured in Bay Farm's presentation. They are among the many outstanding instructors that teach AEF's enrichment after school classes and our summer camps. And a quick plug for all of you with students in kindergarten through 8th grade. Registration for AEF summer camps is open now, and spots are filling quickly. Our camps begin at the end of June, 1-week camps lasting for 4 weeks, and they are at Lincoln Middle School this year. So be sure to visit the AEF website for more information on those.
Next, let's learn about the beautiful Payton Monarchs. Payton Elementary School's presentation is sponsored by the Glassman and Sons, in memory of Tricia Collins Levy, who was a former board member of the AEF, and interim Alameda County Supervisor Dave Brown.
The Payton Monarchs is a Tier 1 program established by the Alameda Unified School District. This is a glimpse into some of the activities and services the Monarchs have done. Annually, the Monarchs host a bulletin board that is on display in the halls of Payton. Each day, our students look into a mirror and say a daily affirmation. As the students step into the classroom, they are stepping into success, where we honor the past and are inspired by our future. This space is calming and safe for the Monarchs to have a place to ease their minds from the day-to-day school pressures. Our first meet and greet. It is a simple strategy where students find one another to match up with topics, talk to each other, and learn about each other's differences. Payton Monarchs hosts food giveaways throughout the school year, receiving community donations. We are able to package and distribute food to families during challenging times. We celebrate the multi-ethnic traditions that allow the Monarchs to explore the impact African Americans have on all cultures. Our children learn through art, music, and creative expressions. With community donations from Fab Kids, All Good Living, and Saya Collective, a Black-owned business, we were able to host several clothing drives around Alameda. Payton Kings and Queens were originally joined together during the pandemic through Zoom. Many of them participated in our Payton Hub that brought children back on campus for early return during the pandemic. Recently, the Payton Monarchs sponsored a fundraiser where the children participated in advertisement, setup, cleanup, money management, and thank you letters for this project. With the goal of aiding community service, the Monarchs were able to raise $100 to be donated to the Alameda Food Bank. The Monarchs incorporate Toolbox by using the book I Am Enough by Grace Byers. Two very important tools our students learned were Patience Tool and the Courage Tool. With encouragement and self-motivation, the I Am statements have become a part of the culture of students in school and the Payton Monarchs.
I am black and awesome, naturally outstanding, phenomenal, helpful, and joyful.
In combination with On the Green and Karika Park, golf camps were offered to our students. It was an amazing summer program that is continuing today. Monarchs on the Green offers students the opportunity to participate in a sport that is local to Alameda and out of the box for many students. Students around town mentor our students.
I want to say that the Payton Monarch Kings and Queens have become a family to me. Not only are the students amazing, their parents are amazing and supportive. And this year couldn't have happened without the support of our principal, Mr. Sarator, and Miss Renata. And it's just been simply amazing. And I cannot wait to see what happens next year in this group, because I know that it's going to be amazing.
Now, the Monarchs class of 2021 wrap up the year with celebrating the past and honoring the future, while the class of 2022 prepares to bridge into the next level of learning with special memories of being a Payton Monarch.
Thank you so much to Payton, and we apologize if you experience a little glitch. That just seems to happen with technology and us every once in a while. Anyway, to wrap up our elementary schools, let's learn about the most popular place on campus at Ruby Bridges School. And this presentation is sponsored by Steve and Lynn McAdam and Jose Alvarez.
So Brian Cooper in the Wellness Center, and really grateful to work in this space. It's the Wellness Center is a classroom dedicated to the social and emotional and artistic well-being of students. And the inspiration for the center is just realizing that our kids need a space where they can come and have a chance to do a bunch of different things, just to be a kid and have a bunch of different activities, art activities and game activities, whether it come in recess and use it as a space for that. And then also it's a place where we can work on the challenges of being a bunch of kids in a space where problems come up. It's a restorative practices place as well, where we can sit down and talk about things that are going on, who's affected by it, how are we going to resolve that and work on that together. It's a really popular place on campus. Every teacher has a couple passes that students can use to take here to the Wellness Center. I definitely have regulars. Some kids have special passes because I know that they need this place to come in, and it just helps de-escalate them and help them put them in a happy place. A lot of art is done here. A lot of chess playing is done here. We just had our chess tournament for March that has first through fifth graders, a bunch of them who have learned the game of chess. The Wellness Center is an integral part of what Ruby Bridges is, because it's a place just dedicated for our kids to come and a safe place for them to express themselves and be themselves. So we're really grateful that it's here.
Well, thank you, Ruby. Seems like that's a good place to go if I was a kid. Many of our presentations this evening center on mental health, which is so important for students and staff. This is why AAF is glad to once again sponsor Care Solace for the 2022-2023 school year, an online concierge service that connects AUSD students, staff, and their families with mental health care resources. Well, Vicki, we have finished the AUSD elementary schools. How do you think we're doing so far?
I think our schools are doing great. I'm really impressed. It makes me want to go back to school again. I tell you, it was not like that in my day.
No, no wellness center when I was in school. What do you think? We should end the show right now and call it a day?
No, I don't think so, because we have a lot more really neat and great programs to learn about. So anyway, before though, we're going to go to our public charters next, but before
I would like to, these are all our existing board members right now, the 2021, 2022 group. Jose Alvarez, Daniel Chin, Dr. Daniel Chin, Nuala Creedon, Daniel Jew, Danielle London, Kelly Lux, Steve Mack, Steve McAdam, Ginger Schuler, Kelly Scott, Courtney Shepler, Margie Sherrick, myself, Kevin Venkateswaran, Kathy Wolf, and I'd especially like to thank two board members there, Courtney Shepler, and Steve McAdam, who are leaving our board after many, many years of excellent service. So thank you to them.
And I would like to thank our board too. As a staff person, it is wonderful to have a board that cares so much about kids, cares so much about education, and is willing to try new things and go in new directions. But I would also like to thank our dedicated staff, Jillian Saxty, Rachel Plato, and Vanessa Acevedo-Reed. All right, now let's move on to our public charter schools. We're very pleased to be able to include them in this year's Salute to Education. And we're going to start with Academy of Alameda and learn about their Student Wellness Center. This presentation is sponsored by Focus Financial Group.
The problem that we were facing was that when we returned from COVID this school year, we knew our students had spent a significant amount of time at home in distance learning, and we were really seeing a lack of social skills between children, a lot of anxiety and sadness, and we were concerned about making sure they would do well at school.
Yeah, and we really wanted to respond to the collective trauma that we are all going through, and we wanted to be very intentional about that.
As we entered this school year, knowing the problems we were facing, we proactively wanted to make sure we had the best staff in place with additional mental health supports and support staff, and the team working together on creating wellness opportunities for students.
We wanted to make sure we had strong folks in place who have the training and the know-how to respond to our students.
They were at home, stuck on a computer screen, on their phones, had less school time. They didn't know how to do it. It was just a lot. So coming back to campus and then having to wear a mask and then like, oh, I want to go talk to my friend, but I can't talk to my friend.
Just providing the supports, combination of counseling and restorative justice supports to get these kids back on track and back on campus in a way where, this is a safe community, and we can't do that just the staff alone being in charge of facilitating that whole process. It also involves you as the students in this community. We have to work at this together.
It's hard coming back, socializing. So Ms. Aditha and I have worked really hard to give them the verbiage that they need to express their feelings. We do mindfulness dinners. We tell them to use their I statements. I feel this way when you do this, or, and I need this. And so like having them advocate for themselves, that's a big word that we use here.
I think that they're working really hard coming back to school after their routine was so drastically changed. It's a really hard transition. And I think a lot of them are really learning what resources they have at school, who they can talk to when they need to, and then really building their feelings vocabulary and asking for what they need and seeking out their resources that can help them during the school day.
The outcome of our amazing wellness team has been that they have provided ample opportunities for students to work on socialization, to have moments where they can learn how to work through their anxiety and just come to school and feel happy and whole.
Yeah, and also trauma shows itself in many different ways, and oftentimes it's not so apparent until something happens or something comes up for the student. And so we also, in addition to all the proactive measures, we have a really strong team to respond to those things, to those moments when a student needs it. And so we're very grateful for that.
Now let's learn how ACLC, Alameda Community Learning Center, makes science come alive. This presentation is sponsored by the wonderful Scott family.
In the past, we've done science fairs and we've hosted them at our school. And this year, one of the key things we wanted to do was we wanted to make it a bit broader audience. So we included our art department and worked on sort of making a exhibition in our courtyard of all of the student artwork that has been sort of accumulating over the years. So then there's this sort of nice transition where you go into a room for some science presentation, and then as you sort of come out during our breaks, you have a chance to sort of look around and enjoy all the wonderful art our kids have made. There were some fairly solid themes about like drawing animal life. And so you had some like pictures of tigers being drawn and sort of all of that type of thing. And so they were these nice thematic boxes and some shadow boxes going on as well of like this wonderful art. And then the students themselves, they had a bunch of cool projects. Like some of them were looking at things like renewable energies and sort of presenting about, you know, how can you make recycling better in the area, or things like modes of transportation, such as like a bike, like charging a bike, or like making sort of personal electric bikes. And then also the idea of like, well, can you actually make a maglev bike was one of the really cool ones that went on. Overall, it sort of brings that sense of science and wonder and the sense of achievement from a sort of like this ambiguous concept of science where it's just sort of out there. And it's like, okay, you know, you have people that go to college for years and study forever, and then they're doing science, and then they eventually solve something. But this was sort of it was like a more internalized type of thing. It's like they're being the scientists, they're being the engineers, they're going out there, they're seeing some problem in their community, and they're like looking at it and sort of being like, okay, how can we apply science to this? How can we actually solve this problem? So it's sort of like they got to do good science, and like they got to experience success, and sometimes they also got to experience failure, and it's all part of the science process. But regardless, they were celebrated for the process they did, not necessarily the result they got. So that's where it really, I feel, shines.
Thank you, ACLC. I really like how you make science so accessible for students. Next, we are going to see something really powerful. Here is NIA Community Learning Center's presentation, and it is also sponsored by the Scott family.
So the Rice experience came about in 2007 when I was really trying to figure out how to explain what millions look like to students. Because for students, it doesn't make any sense when you're talking about horrible events like genocide or experiences in war if you don't understand what millions look like. So we went to the store and tried to figure out what we could get to equal millions, and we decided to use rice. We got this one 10-pound bag and figured it would be enough. And then after counting, realized that it was actually going to take 24 of these 10-pound bags just to represent the Jewish people and the Holocaust. And that moment changed it for everybody involved, because we realized what we were really teaching about was much more intense than had ever been really shown, because we were about to show what those individuals look like by actually laying this rice out. So I dump out to music all of the rice it would take for these 9 accepted genocides, which is over 600 pounds of rice. And while we're doing it, students hold just a few grains in their hand so that they can think about the people that are most important to them. Because when you start to see these massive piles, you again begin to lose sight of one individual and what that really looks like. And then a couple moments really made me know that this had to be something that we were not going to give up on, that we kept doing this, and it became not only something we were doing in school, but that I would do this other places as well. And what changed me was a student who was sitting at the edge of the blanket one day watching the rice be poured, and she was crying, and it was different. She was really wailing. And she said, "What you don't know is that my mom smuggled me out of Bosnia when I was a baby, and my brother and father were killed in the Bosnian genocide." And years later, she came back and they had done excavation at that site, and she brought me this little jar of bullet shells. And they were bullet casings from the mass grave where they found her father and brother. She said, "I think you're the only person that will understand what these bullet shells really mean." And it made me realize that my voice, coming from a country where we are protected, coming from pretty good life, that my voice had to be louder than an empty bullet casing and louder than pictures stuck on a cell phone. And that's when this became much more. And it also became about not just the destruction and the death, but it also came about these jars of justice, which are jars we put on top of the piles to represent people who stood up against hate. Because we also have this chance to make a difference. And it comes down to whether we decide to use our difference for good or we decide to add our influence to those piles of hate.
Wow, that was a very, very powerful presentation indeed. So moving from there, now we are going to move into our AUSD middle and high schools. Let's start with Alameda High School, Alameda, home of the Hornets. Alameda High's presentation is about their sports medicine career pathway, one of 5 career pathways at the school. This video was produced by student Nolan Wynn, who not only is in the sports medicine pathway, but also in the digital film pathway at Alameda High. And this is sponsored by Margie and Don Sherritt, Boost Healthcare, Daniel Jew of Edward Jones, and Bill Pye.
Hi, thanks for tuning in. We've got another Top 10 tonight, and this time it's Top 10 Things About Alameda Unified School District's Career Technical Education Department's Sports Medicine Program. Oddly specific, but I'm not going to complain. Let's start with number 10, hands-on and group activities, modeling muscles with clay, stretcher races, and acting out emergency scenarios. Number 9, learn how to properly tape injuries like knee hyperextension and ankle sprains. Number 8, get a little taste of some medical careers, making presentations and posters. Number 7, opportunities for community activism, vaccination PSAs. Oh, nice, they put a spin on that old World War II ad. Number 6, real EMTs guide students on plugging wounds using gauze in the Stop the Bleed program, rewarded with certification. Number 5, CPR training using CPR dummies, I sure hope so, and also receiving official certification after. Number 4, opportunity to go on a field trip to talk to real Alameda firefighters at the Park Street Station. Get a close-up look at their gear and the trucks. Number 3, fire department ride-alongs. Students can accompany real firefighters on 6-hour shifts in an ambulance. Number 2, 6-month medical internship opportunity at Faces for the Future, where students attend a different class during their sports med period on Mondays and learn in-depth about the medical field. And number 1, the teacher for the program is Mr. Anderson Zhang, an experienced EMT and a favorite among staff at AHS. Well, there you have it. That's the official top 10 list, but this list leaves out my number 1 thing. Cool hoodies. Yes, that's right. In fact, I can't think of a single reason why not to take this class, other than the fact that it's on the 3rd floor and is only accessible by 2 flights of stairs. This has been AHS Sports Med Top 10. Have a good night.
Well, I think that makes my top 10.
That's
And
a good
I
one.
remember those stairs. Our office used to be up on that 3rd floor.
That's very
and
true.
I never did get used to those stairs. You know, we all struggled and many of us are still struggling because of the pandemic. But the students at ASTI, Alameda Science and Technology Institute, may be able to help. This video is also produced by a student, Evan Liu. This presentation is sponsored by Steve and Lynn McAdam and State Farm Insurance, Team Kelly Lux.
Over the past 2 years, I've gotten through the pandemic by learning how to make videos and draw, but everyone has done their own thing to deal with this issue, so I'd like to ask everyone, how did you cope and persevere through the pandemic?
One of the ways I cope with the pandemic and lockdown was
going to the gym and going out and laying in the sun a lot of times.
I would go out with my brothers and play soccer.
I've been going out every day and biking.
I tried to go on regular walks outside my neighborhood, trying to go outside and get a little bit of fresh air that I could. I would do a lot of workouts at home and just do a lot of soccer drills at home.
Over the quarantine, something that really helped me a lot was playing basketball with my friends, pretty much every day.
Spent a lot of time with family. We did a lot of family activities. I helped cook. We did exercise.
Called my friends every day to interact with them. Made sure that I had a safe person to talk to.
Kept in touch with friends and spent time with family.
By talking with my friends on Discord, and we like to send memes to each other.
I really use my online resources more to contact my friends, and it kind of helped me, regain some motivation.
Sleeping a lot and hang out with friends. Playing video games with my friends and 3D printing face shields for my lockers.
I had a
hard time during the pandemic, like family problems. And so I made an appointment with the counselor. After that, I feel like my life is kind of balanced.
Coming back, I got to start a dance club back again, which was really nice. Joy Dance Club.
Music was a big part. Some of my favorite artists, Kid Cudi, talks about mental health, so that's a huge part.
Staying busy by having multiple jobs. Volunteered at the animal shelter and helped the animals find a new home.
I also ate a lot of food because I really like food.
So whether we're having fun outside, spending time with friends and family, or engaging in our favorite hobbies, we've all found our own ways to get through the disaster of the pandemic.
Thank you, Asti. I like the guy that likes food. It's kind of
I can relate.
it's the middle of dinner time. I'm kind of hungry myself. So next up is Encinal Junior and Senior High School, home of the Jets, a place near and dear to my heart, as I was the principal there for 7 years, and we'll always have a lot of Jet pride. And here's one of my favorite Jets, Diana Kenny, sharing Encinal's Going Green project. Encinal is sponsored. This presentation is sponsored by myself and my wonderful wife, Lois, Nancy Joey Gordon, and Tim and Tracy Garvin. And go Jets.
So it turned out that the students and I were headed over to get our COVID tests earlier in the year, and we noticed just a lot of trash everywhere. And the kids were upset. They said, "This is terrible." They immediately started picking things up. And then it was Justin and his sister Julianne who said, at our old school, we were going green. We did it there. We need to do it here.
I got this idea in my head about just making a club to make our campus clean because it's a new campus. So I just wanted to keep clean, not like it'll be like a whole dumpster looking full of trash.
We want to start off a new school here in all this, in an incredibly dirty area. We'd rather have a nice, clean campus where we can enjoy the day.
Well, we also started this because, there was lots of people littering on our campus, and we just wanted to help them.
As a result, I would say that because they're running around picking up trash, we have less trash on campus, which is fabulous. And it's completely 100% student run, student led, student driven. And so the kids are really starting now. We're coming out of the whole COVID piece. They're starting to take more action on campus. So that's exciting.
I hope you noticed Julianne's volleyball t-shirt, because
Yes.
Julianne obviously participates
Plays for
in
the Junior Jets.
the Junior Jets sports program. That's another program that AEF runs, middle school sports for all of our AUSD and public charter middle schools. And in fact, tomorrow is the championship for volleyball down at Alameda Point Gym. And tomorrow is also the field championship at Encinal, with the track championship happening next week. So anyway, thank you, Encinal. Now let's learn about something really fab at Island High School. This presentation is sponsored by Interim Alameda County Supervisor Dave Brown, Stephen Lynn McAdam, and Bill
Me.
and Lois.
Mostly Lois, but I'll take a little credit.
I came on as a volunteer to help the Island High School engineering class. I helped lead the College of Alameda Fab Lab, where students, faculty, and staff get to learn, how to make all sorts of stuff. There are many ways in life where students get to learn, students get to interact with things, right? There's math and art, there's engineering and art. There's beauty in making mistakes and learning how to overcome those mistakes. So really what we're trying to do here is just show students how to make stuff, instill the idea and the fact that mistakes will come and mistakes are okay, and to learn from them. I oftentimes just I have a running tally and someone's oh, I messed up. It's yo, this is my 37th mistake today. Who cares, right? It doesn't matter.
It's important to reach out to the kids because I'm sort of giving them options, what's out there in the world. And maybe it will trigger something in them oh, I don't have to go into academics. I could probably do manufacturing, or I could do something tangible. So everything in this world exists. It doesn't exist because of a mouse click. Someone had to make it.
You just want to show them making school, and for those who have an entrepreneurial spirit, we offer them the opportunity to make their own stuff, to sell their own stuff, using equipment that is, relatively simple to use, with software that's relatively simple to use, and have them engage with like their friends, their community in a new way.
I'm back. That was fabulous. And I really like the option that was shown there, and shows that you don't have to go into academics. I'm not going to say the academics aren't important, but there's another track you can take too and link it with some good academic training, and that's going in the trades, because there's always a need, a big need for people to make things. Another place near and dear to my heart is Wood School, home of those Beavers. And I was also fortunate to serve there as a principal in the mid to late 90s. And Vicki, sometimes these programs are sometimes the people in the program. And let's learn about the special people who gave up their prep period and worked overtime. They're very busy Beavers. This presentation is sponsored by my wife and myself, HOAleader.com, Steve Cressy, in honor of a very good friend of mine, Heidi Bonahati, and an anonymous donor.
So this was a very challenging year. A lot of change staff had to endure coming back from distance learning, and with me as a new principal. And so we also had a bunch of students that we hadn't anticipated. And instead of trying to hire one person who could teach all these different preps, Mr. Peterson did a great job of recruiting Alec and Bob and Marcy and Lindsay to step up and take on additional sections so they didn't have prep all year. And they were rock stars.
Well, I got a call from the assistant principal in the summer, and he asked if I'd be willing to do it. Otherwise, they'd have to bring somebody else in. And since it was sixth grade, I figured I would do it because it would keep everything status quo as far as the sixth graders are concerned. And instead of bringing in one person, a different person to do one class of PE. It also lowered my numbers a little bit because I could spread my kids out. So that definitely has been a help.
Well, it's something needed to happen. The kids needed a class. The kids needed an elective to happen. I had the ability to add another section, and I have a kid in college right now. So not gonna lie, the extra money helps.
I think I've really come to internalize the benefit of being prepared, because if you come in and you're not prepared, you don't have a moment to become prepared. So some days are just extremely joyful at the end, with just kind of like, I've lost my marbles. You came in here hardly with any marbles. Other days, it's very much I retreat home with tail between legs and think, I've got to figure this out for tomorrow.
As difficult as this school year has been, it's also been really fun and pleasurable at times too. We have great students here, and I've learned a lot this year. I learn a lot every year, but this year in particular, we've accomplished a lot in science and on campus in general, I think so.
This year, because of the pandemic in 2020, we were supposed to go March 2020 and take a trip to Europe. This year, we actually made it happen. So I took 23 students to London and Paris for 10 days in March of 2022. It was amazing, and it was worth all the work and all the waiting, and that's the highlight of the year.
Thanks to these 4 teachers for taking on additional sections, we had continuity across our schedule, which benefited students and staff alike. And I have a lot of gratefulness towards them for sacrificing their prep. That is very hard, especially with a year like this. The students have been super challenging coming back from distance learning. And these 4 teachers, Alec, Bob, Marcy, and Lindsay, pushed through. They engaged and persisted all year. And it was a huge sacrifice. And the school was better for it. We're much more organized and cohesive by having them in their departments teaching these extra sections. And I'm just grateful.
Well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
All right, well, those were definitely some very busy beavers. So Bill, we have just one school presentation left, but I want everyone out there to know that there's more after that. We're going to have after that a special.
How many
tribute.
schools do we have in this presentation?
18, by
18.
the way. This is number 18 coming up,
18.
and then we're going to be honoring our volunteers and hearing from a very special speaker and doing the raffle. So don't go away. But to finish our school presentations, we're going to hear from Lincoln Middle School. And this is yet another video that was produced by a student, by 8th grader John Ryan. And I think this video will help us all feel a little more optimistic about others.
Our return to school in the middle of a pandemic was incredibly challenging. However, it wasn't the only struggle students faced. In the midst of lockdowns, mandates, and distancing, many students found themselves absorbed in national and global issues. 2020 to 2022 was a time where many of us moved off the sidelines and decided to learn more and take action.
The Lincoln Leadership class recognized this growing engagement and passion among students and decided to launch the first ever Youth Activist Project, or YAP, at Lincoln. This project allowed participating students to become educators about environmental, social, and political issues. Secondly, it allowed visitors to the exhibit to become learners about topics that many had little exposure to.
The topics covered are extensive. You can see some examples of the projects on screen. We asked a few participants to share what they hoped to achieve through their work. Here's what they had to say.
I did this to spread awareness on the mental health of people of color.
Inspire fair treatment of animals.
To help people realize the effects of their words. Because body image is a big issue that I care about. To inform others of the addictive nature of social media.
To educate people about the anxiety that teens face.
To bring awareness to the issue of global warming and the effects of pollution through microplastics.
To inspire people to take better care of their local environments.
Over 40 project displays and 100 portraits were submitted by Lincoln students, but we did not do this alone. This project tested our ability to promote and network. To spread the word, we created segments for the Lion's Pride, a bi-monthly student-created newscast. We also produced 3 videos, a promotional overview designed to inspire and motivate participation, a how-to video to give specific details on getting started, and finally, a gallery tour so students knew what to expect during their visit. Going hand in hand with our videos, we used the weekly leadership newsletter. This was a fast and efficient way to spread information and provide links and resources. However, newscasts and newsletters can only do so much.
Our most successful tool was to network and connect with other teachers and classes. Mr. Johnson's art students submitted 100 portraits of leaders they admire. Miss Hardigan's science class created trifold boards, built websites, and made videos on ocean pollution. And students in Miss Kesner and Miss Rylander's classes tied YAP work into texts they were studying in English. By increasing the number of people involved, we increased awareness and participation.
What started as a leadership project became a school-wide success. We plan to build on this work next year and further amplify the voices of the next generation of leaders.
Well, Vicki, very well done. And these student presentations and all of them, outstanding. We've just seen some very impressive videos. But at this moment, I have to take a big moment to thank Sean Daniels and the entire crew of Castaway Creative for producing this event for AF. They've gone above and beyond to make this a just quality event. So I hope you appreciate it as much as we do sitting here. I know it's been a lot of work in a very short amount of time. And as you've noticed, several of the videos were produced by students. In fact, Castaway Creative has launched a nonprofit called Students on the Set to involve Alameda students in real-world production. I'm happy to say that through working on AAF's Switch Education event, several students have been connected with this opportunity, and we'll be working with Sean to produce actual commercials for clients.
And that is fantastic.
Outstanding.
As you know, Bill, volunteers, you've been a principal, make all the difference in the vitality of a school. So this year, AF collaborated with Alameda PTAs to honor some of these volunteers. As with everything, things were tougher with COVID, but these volunteers stepped up to support their school and keep their communities connected. Let's take a couple of moments to learn more about them. This presentation is sponsored by Blue Rise Ventures.
Well, that's impressive. Thank you to all the volunteers. And I know, as you do, Vicki, we both know very well that there are many more volunteers beyond those we highlighted this evening. We appreciate all the hard and often unseen work they do, as we appreciate all our board members who are volunteers themselves.
That's right. That's right. All right. In just a couple of minutes, we are going to have our raffle prize drawing, and all proceeds from the raffle are going to support AF's mini grant program, which provides need-based support that benefits students. If you miss purchasing a raffle ticket, you can still support our mini grant program by making a donation tonight. Here again is the QR code. Just demonstration here. Take out your camera and hold it up to the code, and you'll get a link to our donation page. And of course, you can always go to our website at alamedaeducation.org. All right, before we get to our raffle, let's hear a few words from AUSD Board of Education President Jennifer Williams. Jen.
Hi. Vicki and Bill, thank you so much for hosting such an uplifting event. Oh my goodness, watching these videos reminds us all how resilient and creative our students are, from the STEAM lab at Otis to the sports medicine program at Alameda High, the Fab Lab at Island High. They showed us how compassionate and kind our students are, from the Toolbox ambassadors at Maya Lynn to the welcoming community at Franklin, our Hayden Monarchs who are out there supporting food giveaways and clothing drives. And we also saw how our schools support our mental health, the mental health of our students through the wellness programs and the wellness centers at Ruby and at the Academy of Alameda. I have to say how incredibly moving the Rice Experience is. The Rice Experience project is at NIA. We truly are a community that cares deeply about our students and about public education. And watching these videos tonight is a reminder to me and really to all of us why we do this work. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of this community. Thank you for having me here tonight. And thank you, AEF, for once again honoring our schools, our staff, and our volunteers for the amazing work that they do. While we hoped this year would be easier than last year, we sometimes lose track of all the good things that are happening. So thank goodness we have this event to remind us of the amazing things that are happening across our district. On behalf of the Alameda Board of Education, I want everyone attending to know that we see how hard you've been working. We respect the innovative programs you initiate and sustain despite these difficult times. We extend our deepest gratitude for all you are doing to support our students, our families, and our staff. Your daily contributions to our educational community and really our entire Alameda community cannot be understated. So thank you so much, and thank you for putting on such an amazing program tonight, Vicki and Bill.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
We really do appreciate that.
Thank you for paying attention, Jen. I could tell you did.
You took good notes.
Excellent notes there. Okay,
All right.
now time for the fun time. Well, you have had a lot of fun, I hope, tonight.
Yeah.
Now for the raffle drawing. Who
So-
doesn't want to win some cash?
This bag is full of raffle tickets.
Right. Well, tonight is your big chance. So we have basically there's 5 prizes from 100 to 500 donated by Mr. Graber, David Graber's been a great donor for us over the time. I appreciate it again, Mr. Graber. So Vicki went out to find the most honest person she could find to draw a ticket. That's me.
Who?
There's nobody else in the room.
All right, so the first one is going to be for $500.
No, we'll start from. Are we going?
No, you want to give everyone a chance to win 500. Start
Oh,
with
that's
500.
true. And we're going to start with $500 here. I'm going to, if I get one ticket. Goes to Paige Tombin. I think it's T-O-M.
Oh, we know her.
We know Paige. Congratulations. The check's in the mail. Maybe.
All right, I'm making careful notes, so hold on.
There's still a chance to win. Don't go away.
So second is going to be for $400.
$400. Geraldine Warner.
Your check's in the mail.
Your check's in the mail for $400. We do accept donations, by the way. I just keep reminding you that. This is 300.
Yep.
Oh, he's been a long friend of us, Charles Olkin.
Oh, yeah.
The used to donate
Wine
a lot
connoisseur.
of wine connoisseur, and often donated wine to Salute to Education. This is the 200 winner.
Yep. Haven't heard my name yet, Bill.
I haven't heard mine either. Carl and Kathy, Fricke. I don't want to mispronounce.
Frick.
Is it Frick?
Oh, they're my neighbors.
Oh, you got a good neighbor here. I think we have one more. Down to the 100. Shake the bag, as they always like to say. Gail,
Oh.
one of our longtime volunteers.
Volunteers. All
Congratulations,
right.
Gail.
You know what? She said she just knew she was going to win.
Or did she
something.
say she never wins? That's what most people say.
I think she was hoping for the 500, but hey, that's something. So anyway, so that's it. We really impressed by what we saw this evening. As Jen said, very uplifting. Sometimes we get stuck in doing all the work and don't take a chance to celebrate. So we were glad that we could do that. And we want to thank all of you for attending this evening. This will be made available online to be shared. So we will let everyone know. Thank you again to our sponsors for making this event possible. Thank you so much to Sean Daniels and Castaway Creative for putting this all together. I know he's glad it's over. And most of all, thank you to our schools for all the amazing work that you do.
So we hope you have all been inspired as we are by our teachers, staff, volunteers, and especially our students. So good night, everybody.
Good night.
If you're driving home, drive safely.